Hello, how you doing?
Welcome. Sorry, I'm sat here in my little moo-moo. I don't think it's very clean either. I'm a little bit cold this evening. I went out trimming today, and I'm not 100%. I've got a little bit of a cold, and so if I cough, she's just going to make me think about coughing. So I went out trimming today. Got very hot and sweaty, and then freezing cold. And I've not got warm since. You know those, like Gary and I were just saying, when you're cold to your bone. You've been out trimming today, haven't you, Gary?
Yes, and I didn't get home till 6:30.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It was a long day.
But I have to say, it was a long day, but I'm going to be totally upfront and honest. My last client was absolutely lovely, and she had guests because I was running late. So she invited me in for aperos.
Oh, lovely. How nice.
Lovely lady.
That's
I
delightful.
got a little story about this lovely lady. Her and her husband moved from Florida to France, and they have help with another one of my clients with horse riding and stuff like that. And she had this lovely horse, well, two lovely horses, but one was tripping all the time and they couldn't stop it. Body worker, and the body worker noticed that there was problems in the back, towards the back of the back. So you've got the middle, and it's that end, not right at the sacrum, but in between, sort of that lumbar spine area. And I said, okay, well, let's just have a look. And the back feet were just and flat as a pancake. So I trimmed, and then she said, a couple of days later, I took him out, and I was a little bit cautious because he kept tripping and he'd go down. And she said it was really weird because it was almost that he was expecting discomfort.
Yeah.
Didn't have it. And she said it was really weird because I was obviously cautious.
Yeah.
And then we got to just some soft ground, and then, oh my God, he just wanted to go. And she said, and I haven't had a trip since.
Aww.
And I said, isn't it interesting that you just give them the foot that they need?
It's just the foot they need. Yeah. And the balance they need. Well, we can get into more about that in this live. Let's say hello to some people.
Sure.
Vicky's here, top of the shop. Oh, it looks different.
Oh,
have
we had an upgrade, or have you changed something?
I don't know. I think I might have changed it.
I actually quite like it.
Do you like that? Vicky was there. Carol's here. Morning from Canberra. What was it like before then? What have I done? I don't know. Let me go and have a look. See what I've done. I don't think I've done anything. No, I think it's just. I mean, I think we can. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway. I quite like it. Right, let's carry on. Jeanette's here. Hi from France. Bonsoir. Gail Dretch. Hello from Minnesota. Gail Dretch. Still not on Facebook. Life getting in the way. That's okay. But do try and get into that Phoenix group because you'll love it. You will love it. Charlie Brown's here. Hi, Catherine. How you doing? Dawn's here. Hi all. Looking forward to a live. I've been without internet for a while, so need a Phoenix fix now. Yeah, you guys in the UK are really getting stuffed with the storms at the moment. I was meant to be doing a lovely little one of our trim tutorials with one of our students today, and she couldn't get on because the storms were screwing up the connection. So we had to postpone that. So yeah, you're having a bit of a rough time of it. Angie's here. Good afternoon from Central Virginia. Heather Swithenbank's here. Hi, everyone. Shannon, hello from Northern Alberta. Bethan's here. Hi, friends. Leah's here. Good morning. Hello, Leah. How's it doing over there?
Morning.
Hello from Pennsylvania, says Melanie. It's really weird. I'm not used to it. I'm used to it being... I've done something. I'm going to have to change it back. I can't cope. Lynn's here. Hello from Maryland. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Anne Chopra's here from Comox. Is that actually a place, Anne? Or is that just like an abbreviation for something? Vivianne's here. Hello, everyone from Germany. Angela's here. Hello from the south of France. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Janine Phipps is here. Hello, hello. Julio, JJ Julio from Jade French in Minnesota. Lovely to see you. Hello, everyone from Spain. Hi, Ramona.
Hi, Ramona.
Becky Bragg's here. Hi from a rainy Cornwall.
Hi, Becky.
Oh my goodness, so many trees down. Oh no, you really are getting it. I am sorry to hear that. What a horrible thing. It's been, I'm not going to rub it in, but it's been quite nice here. It's cold, but it's nice. But we can have some terrible storms. I never forget the time when we had, because if the really bad storms come towards us, normally everything goes away from, but the really bad storms come towards us. And I remember this time, Asher and I were in the house and we suddenly saw the horses, because we could see them from the house, running around. We were like, oh, and you could, we call it our Wizard of Oz moment, because suddenly the skies were going black and starting to swirl, and it was fairly dry, and the soil was spinning up. It was awful, and we were going, oh God, and we could hear it coming towards, and everything started to rattle. And so Asher and I were going, oh my, and then suddenly the door blew open. So we rushed over to the door and pushed it, and it was really difficult. And we pushed the door shut, and as we pushed the door shut, the windows blew open. And I was leaning on one door, and Asher ran over to the windows, and we were holding it, not knowing what to do with ourselves. One of us had to go out and shut the shutters. Yeah, it was really bad. We could ask Asher, he'd call it our Wizard of Oz moment. We kept thinking that the house is going to go up into the air any minute now, and we're going to see the Wicked Witch of the West turn up. Anyway, there we are. Tara says, hello, lovelies. Hello, Tara.
Hi, Tara.
Anne says, town of Comox on Vancouver Island. Oh, it's called Comox. How lovely. It's very nice. So what's been going on this week then? Well, the internet's had a lot of chatter, hasn't it? There's been so much chatter going on. Don't you find when you see things that are being spoken about us, about HM, and you see things going on about HM around and about in all these different groups and things, the overriding message, what people are saying, comes across, they don't understand what we're doing. That's the overriding thing. And you think to yourself, and then they say all sorts of other things like, oh, they're doing it for sales, or they're doing it for this. And you think, what, with all the free lives that we do? This is live 117, and each one lasts an hour, if not longer. So it's over 100 hours. Well, let's say over 120 plus hours of free content that people can avail themselves with and learn, just like you guys did. So you will see things like that popping up all over the internet, and you just have to scratch the surface, and they don't understand what we're doing. And then because the world has got into such a rotten place with equine hoof care because of assumptions that are made, and these assumptions, you can see they are rife on the internet. And these are people who aren't in the Phoenix group. They're not on YouTube, so that most of them don't follow, so they haven't had the benefit that you guys have. And it's very difficult when you are faced with people who are saying things like this, because you start to explain it to them and they won't have it. They will admit that, well, horses, they're lame. The horses are lame. They won't go must be lame, just are lame. You're like, but they're really not lame. They are getting better. This is the rehab phase. Well, I don't see why you need it. You don't need it. No horse needs to have a long toe like that. We don't like it. It's not something we love. But if you don't have it there, you do disrupt all kinds of mechanisms in the foot, and you screw up your balance points and all of those things. And the most important thing for the horse is getting P3 into the right position and protecting P3. So they don't understand, and then they don't understand the ramifications clearly of removing the toe. They don't understand, I have to say, most of it, which is a little bit worrying when you think that these people are meant to be professionals. So if they don't understand the need to have that foot on the ground, they don't understand what's going on with P3 inside. They don't understand the feedback, and they scoff at it. And you look at them and you think, in fact, I look at them and I think to myself, you are where I was years ago. Those are the thoughts I had all those years ago.
I think you used a word earlier that says it all, and you brushed over it. They are seeing a small amount. They are commenting on a small amount, and then they jump to conclusions and assume they know what we're doing and why.
Yeah.
It's that assumption, isn't it?
And part of it, I think, part of it is they've been doing it a particular way, and obviously we're highlighting the errors of doing that. And so they're trying to, because if you're doing that and we're highlighting that that's really not a good idea, how do you square that with, one, yourself, and two, your clients?
And your fellow professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I get it.
I get it. And
we get it.
I know we get it. And they go on about the fact that, this method and that method. The reason the equine world is in such a state is because of the methods. All this obsession about us talking about just simply going to the hard sole plane, and then this obsession why, oh no, that can't be right for every horse. I have to tell you something. The horses that I went to trim today, Gary has trimmed before, and Ash has trimmed, and there's 5 of them, and there's 2 Normandy cobs. One is an Irish draft, a pony, and who's not a small pony. She's not a little pony. She's a taller pony. And then I don't know what breed the other one is, but he's a sort of cobby kind of it's not quite as big as the Normandy cobs. I can't remember what breed it is. And there's 5 of them, and they don't live on a track, but they have lots of movement, continual movement. They do not stop moving, and they have access to hay 24/7. They're not always eating hay, but they have access to hay. And there I am trimming these horses' hooves, and they are great. There's not a lot to do. There's more to do on the fronts than there is to do really on the hinds, which we find a lot. And I've recorded it, Gary. So we've recorded quite a bit of the trimming session.
All
and I'm lifting these back feet up, and I'm going, where is the wall? Right down on the hard sole plane, like not even a teeny weeny bit above it. It's right down. The most prominent part is the waterline, but there is no bit of that wall that it comes up and out, and that's it. It's done. And I'm thinking, what are you seeing out there? Because surely you see feet like this. You must. If you are a professional, you must see feet like this. These are 6 weekly trims. And I barely touched the hinds today. I took a little bit of bar off and a little bit on some of them on the medial, maybe. And that was it, really. The majority of them had no trimming that needed to be done other than that little bit of work on some of them. I'm not doing that. The horse is doing that. And every 6 weeks, it's the same. We set them off the trim for their foot, their right foot, their natural foot. And because if you remember when we first went to trim them, they hadn't been trimmed for quite some time. And the previous professionals hadn't been trimming to the horse's natural parameters, the horse's natural constant. So we had quite a bit to do. I never forget that day. It was a hot day, and in the summer.
It was a very hot day.
18 months ago.
We melted.
We did. These horses aren't on the most brilliant diet, but they have lots and lots of movement, like I said. Their feet are very good. Their hind feet are very good. And they're down to the hard sole plane. And there is nothing to do. And I don't know if these people who, well, certainly I know some people who talk about it clearly have not trimmed horses. Because if you go out and you do it properly, and you set that horse off with their actual natural foot, that's it. I'm not involved now in trimming their hinds, other than maybe taking a bit of bar down. Practically it. There's no hoof wall above the hard sole plane. Do you see what I'm saying? What would I do if I was one of the methods where let's raise the heels? How could I do that? Or maybe I would think that I should take some toe off or something because it's a bit long, and yet it's these beautiful feet that
I have it. They're wearing their feet off.
That must be it.
They're wearing their feet off. They're not coping. Oh my God, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have to put a shoe on.
And yeah, it's totally sound. I mean, all of them. All 5 of them are rock crunchingly sound. What my point is, I'm not doing that. The horse is doing that. Oh my goodness, George is phoning me right on a live. Hang on a minute. Let me message her. Where is she? Can you tell her?
Yeah, I'll message her.
No, sorry, Tim's not you. Tim
Oh.
Sorry. When he said Tim's doing it, he's in the front room. So all of this, we mustn't trim down to the hard sole plane. The horse is doing that. Now what do I do? What shall I say to the horse? Stop it. Don't do that. Because clearly that's incorrect. The rest of the world thinks that you should have wall above the hard sole plane. So can you please stop doing that with your hind feet? Do me a favor and grow a bit of foot. It doesn't need to, because it's all in equilibrium with their environment. It's very odd. It's very odd, people. And I think to myself, what are you seeing out there? Do you not see what we see? Do you not see these kind of healthy feet? And with the front feet, again, very little to do. Little bits of heel, bits of bar. Not a lot, thank goodness, because they're big feet, these Normandy cobs.
Yes, they are.
But I suppose, thinking about it, let's just say that I didn't with the front feet, because people, we've had this conversation before many times, how the front feet are dealt with differently to the hind feet, always trimmed a little bit differently. And it's easy to have the front feet go out of shape real fast. And it's easy to get NPAs on hind feet because you don't get the balance right. We know that. And that's, if it was the most common things we see are toes off, high heels on the front feet, and bull-nosed NPAs on the hind feet. Did I say that right? Front feet, toes off, high heels on the front feet, and bull-nose NPA on the hind feet. And of course, all of that affects everything. It affects the body, it affects the posture. And you come along and you trim, like you were just saying with this horse that was tripping, that your client, you come along and you trim correctly. What is trimming correctly? Because if I picked up those front feet, right, and I just went, or in my opinion, I think we leave them. In my opinion, I think we should do that. Today, I'm not going to trim those heels down. So the next time I come in 6 weeks' time, those heels are even higher. They haven't, because they're growing a little bit. And this time when I come in 6 weeks' time, I think to myself, oh, I think that looks pretty good. We're growing heel. This horse needs heel. Remembering the surface area is shortening every time it does that, because the heels are not growing straight down. They grow with the horn tubules slightly under. Maybe what I'll do this time is, my owner's told me that this horse is tripping. So you could have then gone, okay, stripping. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring the brake over back, much further back, to stop these horses from tripping.
Chop the toe off.
So I'm going to take a lot more toe and shorten the surface area even more. And then the next thing you know, you go again and you get and the owner goes, well, you know, Gary, they weren't too bad, but you know, the tripping's not stopped. And you're like, oh, I don't know. And before you know it, you've got this horse into higher heels, shortened surface area, underrun, chopping the toe off, and P3 in an incorrect position. You're not really done much with the back feet. And because you've not appreciated balance, perhaps you've left the hind feet in an MPA. So you, instead of P3 being hyperpositive, it's going slightly the other way. You can easily see, can't you, how these horses within 2 trims could just go to rats.
Yep.
And we know that there's a massive problem in hoof care around the world. We know that. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we do all these free lives, because we're trying to raise the standards of hoof care around the world. And the only way we're going to do that, folks, is by educating you lot. Because I am so sad when I read, I mean, I don't care. They can say what they like about me and Gary and HM. It doesn't matter, because there isn't a school in the world that is putting through as many pros as we are. And we've got 60 plus now, and we're taking on another bunch in March, which I think we've got pretty much everyone for that one in March, and they're already booking in for July, the intake in July. People are waking up to it. If we were so terribly wrong, that would mean the horse was so terribly wrong. They've got to stop calling this a method. It's not a method, it's a way, because a way meaning, you know, let's get the species specific diet and management, etc., all right as well. But you could easily see how you could screw up the feet so quickly. And then what do we see? We see situations coming into the Phoenix group with these dreadfully high heels that are different on both sides. I was talking today, as I was making this video, that I mean, I don't think about it, and I know you don't think about it, because we trim and we've done it so many times. But when you're thinking about it to teach, when you go from one side to the next side, you have to move your body into different positions, because in order to do the same thing, in order to help those that trim go to what the horse is showing you, you have to slightly be in a different position. Well, people are handed, so it's more difficult on one side than it is on the other. And that's a huge problem for horses, because the humans are handed. And so what we see are front feet, usually, that are different, because they don't know. Because they're guessing. Imagine this. I'm going to guess and leave the heels at 2.5 centimeters on the left fore. But I haven't measured them, because people don't measure them. These professionals don't go out and measure them. And then on the right fore, I think I'm leaving the same, but I've left a little bit more. I've left 2.5 centimeters because I didn't clock it. Now that's a massive problem for the horse. He feels it. So we've got 2 feet that are starting to become different, and they're being ridden, and they're having all these things happen. And then many of these horses can't cope barefoot because of these things that are going on. And so then they shoe them. And then things for many horses, and believe you me, it's many horses, begin to break down and have all kinds of problems. But having that situation handed human beings not following the horse's natural parameters is leading to all the crap that we see floating into the Phoenix group, or these poor horses with differences in heel height, one heel like this and the other heel like that, and then the vet's telling them it's just a club foot. No, it's human beings that have been trimming incorrectly over a long period of time. Not even, doesn't have to be a long period of time, but some of these poor horses, you know, it's just awful. But it does make me sad to hear owners comment on when these pros go blah 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 HM, they must be terrible, this horses are crippled, tripped, all that rubbish, because they're not in the Phoenix group, they're obviously not watching these lives. And then the owners go, yeah, it's terrible. I jumped in the group and saw these horrors. I had to leave. And you think, the horrors aren't really coming from us. We're rehabbing the horrors that are coming from you.
People are realizing, though. People are realizing, and even the ones, and we've had it before, haven't we? We've had people that have been the naysayers to HM, and then all of a sudden, something just clicks in their brain. Why is this not working? Why is this not working? It might be one of their horses that they may be having a stronger relationship with, perhaps. And it's almost, oh, well, everything else has failed. Well, what have I got to lose? It's that kind of thing.
Oh,
we want to get ahead of that.
We want to get ahead of that.
We want to be. Is there anybody else on the planet that is providing the information that we are voluntary to change equine welfare for the better? No, there isn't.
No, and they are still back there. Do you remember when do you remember when, Gary, we've been saying this for years and showing pictures on our Facebook, and people have been giggling and scoffing and oh my God, they don't know what they're doing. And then we started the Phoenix group, and then they kind of went, oh, how has that got so big so quickly? And it just must be full of people who are just staring and laughing. It isn't, though, is it? And then you hear silly comments like, oh, it's an awful group, they don't listen. Well, we were reading through some of the posts, Tim and I, earlier, and it's the support that is in that group is fantastic.
Exactly, second to none to anything else that's out there.
No other group on Facebook. None of them are like it. None of them. Yeah. So,
but don't you also think, and this could possibly be subconscious, everybody wants a bit of drama?
Oh yeah, I don't think that's subconscious. I think that's just
what people want. They want a bit of. I want who can shout loudest.
Hands down, yeah. And they say that's me, don't they? They say that's you and me, or mainly me, that I'm the one that shouts loudest. No, I'm just the one bringing it up. Yeah. Do you bring it up about, oh, I hate the way that they discuss, they diss or discuss or say other professionals are wrong? Oh, well, don't be one of those professionals then.
Yeah, you have a choice.
I'm advocating for the horse, not your feelings. Yes. Sorry about that. Now, you don't like it. When you see the amount of crap that we see every single day, many times a day, coming in through emails, coming in through private messages, coming into the Phoenix group, it's hard to stay. You don't want to stay non-emotional, because if you detach yourself from it, and I've seen many vets that have become detached, and hoof care professionals, if you become detached from it, you lose something.
Yeah.
So it's finding that balance of not being detached, but also not getting damaged by it all the time. And the only way that I think you and I can keep going with this is to just keep digging in and helping and digging in and helping and changing and changing and changing and changing and helping people, you know,
And
all
I think
over the
it's
world.
also as hard as it is, when there are really hard discussions to be had with regards to people having really poorly feet, and the underlying cause was not them as owners,
I know.
because they didn't know.
Absolutely.
As hard as that is, and as upsetting as it is, it's equally as upsetting for us as it is for the horse owners. That is really important to highlight that, because it actually shows that this happened because humans got it wrong. And that's not the horse owner. It's everybody that had an input into that animal.
That's right.
We take these animals into our care and we have a responsibility. Now, you either do your research and have an open mind, or you follow the old rhetoric. You've got two choices. There is no other choice.
Did you see what I put up on the Facebook group? What Marcel shared it. One of us, well, he's pro, shared it in the student group.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
About the blue and the red circle.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Well, let's share it. Let's see if we can watch this. This is really, it really hits the point. This. Let's just. I think somebody's just mentioned it as well. Right. Are you ready?
Now, despite what does the matrix look like? Let me show you. Now, despite what you might be thinking, these two circles are not equal. I repeat, these two circles are not equal. One is in fact larger than the other. What I need you to do is determine which one that is. Please raise your hand if you believe the blue circle is larger than the red. All right. Please raise your hand if you believe the red circle is larger than the blue. All right, very good. Now, before I said anything about these two circles, what was your first instinct? Equal, right? They look equal. And the reason why they look equal is because, in fact, they are equal. These two circles are identical. Yet I got just about every one of you to raise your hand and say that they're not. So what did we learn? That you can be manipulated like that to believe in something that goes against your natural instincts. Just imagine as a child, you're taught that the blue circle is larger than the red. If you say it enough times, you convince yourself that's the truth. If you're told the lie enough times, it becomes part of your reality. And if enough people are taught that lie, that the blue circle is larger than the red, well, now it becomes part of the culture. And if that culture then passes that misinformation along to the next generation, well, now it becomes tradition.
Very true. And you could put equine world at the top of that slide.
Couldn't you just?
Oh my God. And there's probably many other things it could happen to as well.
Oh my goodness.
Many.
And it's just become part of, they all do it. And when they say we couldn't, how come they think they're right? Because we're doing it for the horse, the advocate. The horse is showing us, right? We're not putting our own ideals. We're not PPT. We're not making it up. And they say, well, how can we all be wrong? Because you were fed the lies. And it's become part of tradition. And you don't realize it.
Nope.
You don't realize it.
But you could argue, what was the original tradition for the horse? Before humans came along, what was the original tradition?
Okay. Bethan, let's go through some comments. Love the chatter. Already bringing more people to the Galsworth page you wanted to learn. I mean, that's what happens. If they don't stop talking about us and they're chattering about us everywhere, they just keep bringing people back to us. I'm going to go and have a look. And what they don't realize is that a lot of those people that come over to have a look have got problems and they're searching. They're searching for answers. like the blue and red circles vids. It's so true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have become intimidating, challenging the incorrect traditional approach to hoof care and knowledge. And that's why it's traditional, because you were fed it long enough, you believed it, and now you can't believe anything else. You believed it for so long, you simply cannot open yourself up to believe anything else. What they all seem to forget is I've been there. I am them, was them. I've done all that. I've done all leaving the heels, leaving the bars, chopping the toes. I've done all of that. It doesn't work. There is only one thing that works, and that is following Mother Nature. Think of those hind feet. Mother Nature's doing that, not me. I didn't do it, and I'm not turning up for 6 weeks.
I met a lovely lady today. It was a new horse to me, and she's had her for 3 years. Had another trimmer. Couldn't get hold of him for love nor money, so she's now moved her horse to one of my other clients. And she said, "Oh, Gary will come," and of course, obviously, I did. And she's a lovely grey PRE. And as soon as I arrived, and she said, "Do you know how to trim PREs? They're very special, you know." And I said, "So how special?"
Oh no!
So I said, "Oh, okay." She's very lovely. So
different foot to all the other horses.
What would you like me to do? What would you like me to do for your special PRE? She couldn't tell me.
No.
She couldn't tell me.
Well, I don't know. You know, because they're special. Oh, they have 2 frogs. That's how they're special, is it? And 4 bars. Do they have 4?
It's interesting, isn't it? And she said, "But when I bought her, they said that this had to be done and this had to be done, and the toes weren't allowed to be too long, and da da da." And I said, "So why?" "Oh, I don't know. That's just what they said."
Bless her.
And it's
she'll learn.
and then I showed her what I was doing, why I was doing it, and this mare had actually really lovely feet. And just like you were saying, I got to the backs, there was next to bugger all needed doing. And she hadn't been seen for over 2 months. And it was right down to the hard sole plane. And she was cantering around, having a lovely time. It's really interesting how people can get stuck on something somebody has said and have nothing to back it up.
Oh God,
Zero.
And I mean, that drives Bethan and I mad, you know, about the fact that we are held to these high standards.
Yes, but nobody else is.
We're putting it all out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, and nobody else is.
Or you can see it on the Gorsworth page. And yet, nobody else is doing that.
It's all right. They're allowed to have opinions, and their opinions count, and that is it. That is it.
It's amazing.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Bethan says they've said our poor little Smokey didn't survive our rehab pod. News to us and him. He's out there now with lovely feet saved from horrific rotation. It's
people will say what they want, won't they?
False news.
They want a reaction. They want a reaction.
We did start on time. Oh.
We did.
Vanura says it's like well patients. Should we prescribe statins anyway? How else will we make revenue? Well, God, that again. Oh, it's Christy in Oregon with Sassy. Hello. Julie Bradbury says we see the equilibrium stage of growth and wear here on at least 8 of the 15, and the others are getting there as they become more accustomed in their movement to their natural footwear. And what's great, it's great, isn't it? And then you go, well, what could I do any differently? They are doing that now. And we always say when you start trimming like this, you wake up the horse's foot to do its natural thing, and then one day, like today, you turn up and there's nothing to do because the horse it's found that spot right on that spot. And you won't get that with horses that are obviously a shod, but you won't get that with horses that are kept in stables or aren't moving enough either. Vanaru says, my older mare has a hind. I worry it might be an MPA. She broke off a bunch in a late summer rocky trail line, and now it doesn't look right. I'll get pics. It's about balance. Balance is my biggest, and Gary's biggest thing. Let me see if I can find a picture to show you a picture that I'm going to put up on the page from Sophie. I'm sure. Oh, I did. I saved it. Oh, well done.
Well done, Lindsay.
I saved it. Right. So this was a very typical example of an MPA. And this horse was a thoroughbred trimmed by one of our hoof care pros, Sophie. And Sophie is back to front. So this is number 1, 2, 3. So this is the final trim. Well, this is just the third trim. This is just third trim. Second trim. So this was taken before the shoes came off. First trim, second trim. Look at the difference. First of all, let's look at the top row. So this is a front foot. I think you can probably already see the problem with the hind foot. This is a front foot. Look how underrun it is. Look how much foot there is. And then look at the difference. Look at the difference. Look at the difference in the angles. Now, there's a lot of people that put these pictures up on Facebook and make it out as if it's magic. Look what we've done. We've done this magical, amazing trim. And look at us. Aren't we amazing? We've created this. No, that was always there. It was just hidden in this mess. We didn't create that. That was already there. You trim to the horse's natural parameters and it starts to appear. Look at this one. This is an MPA. Now, we see horses like this all the time.
All the time.
So to fix this, what the world does is they put a wedge on the back because they see P3 is like that. So they come along and they go, goodness me, after an x-ray, we'll wedge it. Did Sophie do that? No. She took it off and balanced it. And watch what happens to the angle. It changes. It gets steeper. And it's just growing out its bull nose now because it was too long at the toe. But because it's all going back, when they look at dorsopalmar balance, they can't judge it properly. They think they've balanced, and then they go and x-ray it, and you've got an MPA. MPAs and positive PAs, we should call them MPAs and PPAs, once both of them are a problem for the horse because of the human. It's got nothing to do with their posture. Well, I mean, it affects their posture. My God, this horse here standing underneath himself has desperately affected the posture, and for God knows how long. The problem is the trimming. It's always been that. And causing problems with the back of the foot. Got to get the balance right. You have to get the balance right. And even if you've got a caudal hoof failure with the collapsed back of the foot, you still shouldn't have an NPA. You've just got a poorly foot. You shouldn't have a toe that's poking up above the rest. But if you've got an MPA and you've x-rays and there's an MPA, the trim's wrong. The balance is wrong. The toe has not been properly balanced. So if you look at the difference between this and this, you can see, I mean, it's got half of its foot gone anyway. And you can see here again, look at this. This is going back to completely normal angles. Yet look at this. Look at the change in the pastern from here to here. And that's another front foot. So exactly what I was saying earlier, and I wasn't meaning these photos. What did I say? The heels have gone long and they're shortening the toe. and then they slapped on, and you're shortening the surface area. And with the hind foot, they're getting the balance wrong, giving that NPA. That horse, front feet and hind feet, and they're all a little bit different, was not good on his pins. And then they moan about posture, and they moan about all these other problems that these horses have. And you're like, can you not see what's going on? Yeah. So those are good pictures. Excellent pictures. Let me just stop sharing that. NPAs, I wedge them, shoe them. You can't shoo it away. You need to balance it away. And balance is one of the trickiest things to learn, isn't it, Gary?
Oh yes. The idea is simple.
Very.
Very simple. The practicalities of it and getting it in the human brain is challenging. It is challenging because I equate it to there's too much information coming into the human's eyes.
Yeah.
What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to concentrate on 3 specific points. And because the human eye is trained to just pick up absolutely everything that it sees and process it, it just gets all confused. It gets all confused. But once you've got it, oh my God, you've got it forever.
And
Without
you
a
know,
doubt.
without a doubt, and that's it. It's done. You've got it, and you never
Yeah.
fail. But it takes.
It takes
You
time.
know, it takes, and you think you have it when you're learning. Yeah, I've got it. And then a foot will throw you off. You'll get a right foot, or you'll get one of these MPAs, or you'll get an underrun, or you'll get something, and you'll be like a chopped off toe, and you think, I don't know if I know the balance. Only when you can trim hundreds and hundreds of horses and know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to balance will you stop all of this. Our horses that we trim don't have NPAs or rotated P3s. They have the P3s in exactly where they need to be, which is why they're all sound as a pound, except, of course, for the rehabs who are getting better. Who are rehabbing. I think there was a question on the Phoenix group, actually, where this lady had said, I wondered whether we should go in and have a look at it. What she'd said, why is there stretch on the front feet and not the back feet?
Well, that's because the back feet aren't messed about with like the front feet.
Right. And
by humans.
Right. And did we see a rotated P3 on those hind feet that we've just looked at?
No.
Positive, which therefore would create some separation.
No, because it was negative.
Going the other way. So
yeah.
That's one reason. And the other reason
the hoof care is not consistent.
Right.
Front to back.
Right.
On the same bloody horse.
Right. Wait, it gets worse. It gets worse. Then the lovely girl said, and I think she's trimming them herself, so bless her, she's learning. But then she said, and why are the 2 front feet different? Why is there more separation on one than the other? Why is that then?
Oh, that's because the person that's trimming is handed. It is not allowing for that.
And one side is higher than the other.
Yeah.
And when you're now bringing them down, you're seeing that coming out at the toe. And it's so simple. It's so simple.
It is so simple.
Understanding it,
yes.
Putting it into practice is not necessarily so simple. But if you're not out there, I had a lady contact me this evening who's one of our 10-dayers, our challenge ladies. And she was just sending me some photographs. And she said, I don't know why the left fore, my mare doesn't seem to be, she's recovering from rotation caused by high heels, but the left fore was always higher than the right fore. But they've been doing the trimming, and she said she still doesn't seem to be getting better on her left fore. She's got a lot better, but she's as we're getting through the trim, she gets sore again, and they think it's a soreness. It's because as the trim is progressing, P3 is doing that. Because obviously the toe isn't in the right position. as well as the heels growing up. And I said to her, go back and measure the heels. Measure the heels on the right fore and measure the heels on the left fore and tell me what you've got. Because nobody does it. They know, they don't look to see. They try. I can't pick both feet up at the same time and just judge each one, can I? I have to have trimmed that one, put it down, trundle around the horse, pick up the other one and go, I hope that I've got some symmetry here. Now, we're not trying to make symmetry, but the horse usually has symmetry. Always. Unless they've had a traumatic injury. So I got her to go and measure it. So she came back, she went, it's 2 centimeters on the right front and 3 centimeters on the left. I said, what's that telling you? Well, the heels are higher on the left. They are. But the heels on the right are, she's not going lame on the right. She seems to be, that whole centimeter more is at trim. And then that horse has got to go another centimeter in between. Well, roughly. Because the horse is lame, it's not walking around so much. So you know that if you've got 2 centimeters down on the other side, that you've got the depth. And this foot is smaller, more contracted, shorter surface area, and the other one's slightly different. Why? Because they've been trimmed differently for a long, long time.
Yeah.
People come, oh, my horse has got a club foot. Really? At times I've seen that when I've gone to a client, I can't even remember a client with a horse with a club foot, except one that remained slightly different to the other foot after correct trimming and hoof care for a period. They might have started looking clubby when I turned up or you turned up, but at the end of the day, the symmetry comes eventually.
Yeah.
And there was this one horse and she broke her shoulder. She actually broke part of her shoulder and she couldn't walk brilliantly on that leg. And so what happened when I came to trim her, I couldn't trim her initially for a while, but I could trim just bits and pieces. And then gradually what happened is this foot began to contract because she just wasn't using it as much. So we had a bit of a disparity and I kept them as best I could for her. And gradually over time, as she started to get better and she started to heal, she still had a deformity. The feet started to settle down again. But initially, they started going a bit out of whack. You can see how easy it is to let it go out of whack and remain out of whack and even get worse and worse. The horse that we were helping yesterday with the lovely lady who was very brave, who came into the Phoenix group and said, I've been following these methods and getting it wrong. One side was, I don't know how many inches, and the other side was a lot shorter. Still had underrun and still had separation and rotation, but one side was much longer than the other. We've got people who aren't hoof care professionals and vets have got to stop telling the world, because this is what farriers have told them. Again, red and blue circle, folks, that a club foot is a club foot because the horse is grazing in a funny way or because they came out like that as a foal. It's because they never had the right hoof care, full stop. And they had handed hoof care. And then once it got to a certain position, it stayed like that for the rest of that horse's life and just got worse.
And then it's people's opinion and guesswork.
Absolutely. Dawn says, I noticed that both mine had much less to do on their hinds to their fronts the last time I trimmed. In fact, Ed's hinds are looking much more symmetrical than before. Right. This is what you will begin to see. Well done. Hello. Remember to like the video, everyone. Yes. Like, subscribe, do all of those things. I forget I'm on YouTube. Nikki's here. Hi, all.
Oh, yeah.
Dawn says he's still difficult to trim because of hock pain, as he can't hold his weight for long. Yeah, keep him low and take your time. Take your time. Could you explain why they trip, please? My boy had been down on both knees and even completely down on slippery surfaces. There are loads of reasons why horses trip. And some of it is to do with the rider. And the tack and the way that the people are riding, the person. So that's one reason. Well, that was a few reasons actually. The hoof care. If the hoofs, where did that come from? If the hooves aren't balanced, that's another reason. If they've got any pain in areas of their body that's exacerbated by either riding or whatever. But it's usually down to balance. And the wobble effect is a big thing too, shortening the surface area. People say that horses are lazy, that's why they trip. No, I've never bought that. Never ever bought it. And an occasional trip, I trip. Garry trip. We all trip. We all occasionally trip. If you're seeing trip after trip after trip after trip, something's going on, right? But if you've got the feet balanced, something else is going on. And but they won't trip. You look at them, and anybody that's doing this rehab and you're leaving the toe on the ground, they won't trip. They may trip just like every other horse occasionally, but it doesn't make them trip because that's not how they walk. They lift, don't trip. So it could be a number of reasons, Jeanette. I have taken over several horses from the same farrier that all have very high heels with thrushy frogs on fronts and missing heels on hinds. I've got to tell you this very quickly. A lovely lady who's gone through the challenges, who lives in Spain. I had a call with her today, and she was going through a cadaver trim that she's done for her sort of 11-day assessment. And we were going through it and chatting about it. And she said, just to get some experience, Lindsay, I've been spending some time out with a trimmer and a farrier. And I went, and she went, I know, I've got to be careful because I can pick up some awful bad habits. So she's very aware of that. And she went to trim this pony for the farrier said, right, go off and trim that. Now, this is interesting because she's not been trained, but she's just going out with him and she's taking shoes off. And then he told her to go and trim this horse pony. And she went to trim him and she started to take the heels to bring them down because the heels were overgrown. And he jumped on her, shouted and said, not physically jumped on her, stop. You're going to affect the HPA. You're going to affect the hoof pastern axis.
Oh, is that a constant?
And I said to her,
facetious.
Is it a constant? And she went, no. I said, it's arbitrary. When a horse is balanced and trimmed correctly, they'll have P3 in the perfect position they need it to be and a perfectly healthy HPA. Yep. Hoof pastern axis going down from the leg of the pastern, from the leg going down the front of the hoof. If you try and trim to that with all these desperate problems because you're leaving the heels high, and the more you leave it up, the more you chop off, the more the problem gets worse, the more the separation starts, the more that you have to keep doing that in order to keep it more and more and more in line. Can you see how it's just never ending? It's arbitrary. You need to stop all of that. If there is one thing that I wish we could do in this world is take that crap out of every single textbook that any hoof care professional ever read. Nobody should be taught to trim to the HPA. It's bad. Don't ever do that. Don't ever try and trim to make the hoof pastern axis in line. And there'll be people watching this going, oh, that can't be right. Of course it's right. It's not a constant. If you're leaving the heels high and you're chopping the toe off and that horse's foot is being manipulated, it isn't a constant. It will never remain constant. We know this because when we heal these rehabs and we take the heels down to where they need to be, the toe goes, and the horse finds its natural HPA, and the old crappy foot that was at the wrong angle starts to grow out. Bethan says it's like a horse stepping out of slippers is how she sees it. Yeah. and says we are intimidating, and that is why they choose to attack us. And also because we're challenging their trimming. I said after my first ever trim, I cannot imagine taking these tools to a horse's foot without knowing exactly what I'm doing. I can't wrap my head around the guesswork of typical vet and farrier. Oh my God. I can't. And she went on to say, this lovely lady, she went on to say it got worse because he had this competition horse that was quite expensive that he went to this client, and he did a slightly different trim on that horse than he did on other horses. And then on another pony, he let her go off and do it, and she did the trim, and she trimmed it all down to the natural parameters. He came, he went, oh, well done, that looks okay. She said,
no consistency.
It just no consistency at all, none. And the other thing she noticed, because she was going out with a trimmer, and of course a trimmer is more to our side of things, but still not trimming truly to the horse's natural parameters. But she said one glaring thing between the trimmer and the farrier was that the trimmer was more concerned with how the horses were being kept and managed and fed, and the farrier never even asked that question once.
It's interesting, isn't it?
We got problems out there, peeps. I had a farrier say that about my horse too, and I'm like, well, she's 10 and didn't have a club foot for 9 years, and now she does. Interesting, isn't it? It's obvious where the shape came from. Absolutely, the hoof care professional. Oh, it's never. This is another thing this is why they're all up in arms and like they're throwing everything out. They're like, oh my God, I'm like a cat coat. The reason they're doing that is because, what are we saying? You've caused it. And none of them, they're all so bloody perfect that nobody could ever possibly get it wrong, ever. They're all doing it right. We're doing it wrong, but they're all doing it right. Well, if we were doing it wrong, we wouldn't have the success that we have. Mother Nature would just honestly have given up a long time ago. And we wouldn't have to rehab all these poor souls that have dreadful feet. We have to realize that we have to stop being insane. That is keeping doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, of course.
Very true.
We listened and watched them lame and maim, and then we fired them. And nobody is responsible. And it drives me mad. Everybody walks away. Even when the vet is faced with a horse with an X-ray, with a rotated pedal bone, they still don't think it has anything to do with the hoof care professional that's doing it. When they're faced with an NPA, they still don't think that it's to do with the hoof care professional. They think it's the horse. Nobody gets the blame, no human. And it's shocking. They are getting it wrong. Wow. The support in this group is unmatched. I've said it time and time again. This group helps both horse and owner. Having this group helped my anxiety over the horses a lot. I'm glad it did, Melanie. And what an outcome you had. Hi, Meta. Hi. Nowhere else could you consult their other owners and get support from the professionals so quickly. No, we're on it. Well, we try to be. It's a bit busy recently.
As best we can.
Hi, everyone. Says Angela. Hello.
Yeah.
Why do you think the hinds often don't need much more weight bearing? No, I wouldn't say it's about weight bearing. It's just about you've got the pillars and the springs. They just do different jobs. They just do different jobs. I think years ago, we even, the people, well, I know they still say it, right? They still say it all the time. We hear it all the time, that horses that have separation on their fronts and not on their hinds is because they weight bear more on their fronts. Nothing to do with that. It's just got to do with the crappier hoof care. And the heels go, and the toes going. They can't wrap their head around it. They will one day. One day it will click, and it's clicking for people all the time when they come in the Phoenix group. Click, click, click. Are the quarters on the hoof meant to have a visible arch in them? Yes, but not that you scoop the arch.
Yeah, you still follow the constants. I suppose it looks really flat on a laminitic foot. So a rehabbing foot can look very flat. So when we're talking about a healthy barefoot foot, then there is an arch of a degree. And the medial and lateral side may not have the same amount of arch. That's why the hard sole plane is so important as a constant. For some horses, you may not even see that much of an arch, but if it's trimmed correctly, you put the foot on a wooden board or an old chopping board, and you put the foot on that, and you can slide a piece of paper underneath at the quarters. And then if you go backwards, you'll go back to the heel. And then if you go forwards at the front, there'll be a point at the front, which should be waterline, which is the inner hoof wall. So there you've got your pillars of support. But very often it's almost negligible, but you can fit a piece of paper under it. But then other horses, and they can be big, heavy horses, that you can fit a whole hoof pick underneath the quarters.
Yeah.
But we haven't carved that. That's really important, because otherwise that's another form of PPT. It's following the hard sole plane.
Or the opposite being they just leave it flat all the way along.
Or they leave it flat.
So that dorsopalmar balance, like Gary said earlier, the heels and the toe, we're not looking at the quarters.
No.
They shouldn't be in play.
No.
But we're not carving them, but they shouldn't be in play. Only when you learn this and you trim this and you can see why these professionals are up in arms, because they don't do it. So they don't see it. You have to, and we say this to the students, so then in their second year, they go out and do their professional practice. You have to have gone through a whole year trimming a feet, to see and appreciate the changes that are going on when you're rehabbing, and to see and appreciate what happens to those feet. You have to do this for a whole year. And some people don't even do it for 5 minutes. So, and yet these are the people who go, oh my God, I tried it and it didn't work. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Let's be honest. And who taught you to do it? Because unless you were taught to do it by somebody who knows how to trim to the horse's natural constants, you won't. Because, and something else this lovely lady said to me this afternoon, and because she's been spending time out there with this, and this will come from the other trimmer, she said, I've just got another question. I said, okay, what's that? She said, if we trim down to the hard sole plane always, are we going to make the horse sore? It's going to be sore on their sole. And I went, no, God, no. I said, most horses that are sore when they're footsore going over ground, if they've got their foot in the right position, is because they've got their frogs are hurting, because their frogs are infected and problematic and sore. It's the soft tissues at the back of the foot. But other horses that are ow, 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 because P3s are. You are amazing. I will watch the remainder on YouTube later. Bye. Hi, everyone. Hope you're feeling better, Lindsay. Hope you're well rested after your holes, Gary.
I had a lovely time. I've come home for a rest.
And brought the cold with him.
Brought cold with me.
Shanna says, I have one that looks clubbed in one front. He also had an old injury on that leg. I wonder if it caused it. I told my daughter that it would probably go away once he's trimmed to HO. Yeah, as long as you keep on top of it. When you've got maintenance trims, like I was doing today, like Gary's been doing, 6 weekly, we just chuck them out 6 weeks so we can get all these people in. You don't have to trim every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks. You don't have to, or 4 weekly. But when you are correcting problems, you have to get in there more if you can. 3 or 4 weekly. 3 weekly halfway really is the best, because you're correcting problems which can go out of whack very quickly. So that's where the trimming cycle is. He's good with his hinds. It's his front that he snatches away so he can rest his hinds. Any tips on how I can hold them, please? I only manage a few. Yeah. I was dealing with a horse today called Celeste, who's got DSLD in her hinds, and Gary knows who Celeste is. And she can just about, as long as I keep her hinds nice and low, we can get through it. My horse is similar. I've got my Oscar has similar problems. And so when you go to trim a front foot, the weight is shifted and it's hard for them to lift that pillar, you know, the posts, the pillars off the ground, to rely on the springs. And how we work with Celeste is we keep the foot low and I go from one to the other. I do as much as I can, and you've got to be quick. You can't hang around. This is where it will take you probably longer than we would, because we get in and we straight on it, doing whatever it is we need to do very fast. And then she goes, oh, I've got to put my foot down. And then I leave that foot alone and I trundle around to the other front foot and we pick that one up and we do that and we just swap from one foot to the next. That's my tip. We are all learning. All of us didn't know this at some time. Let's embrace these ones that don't get it like us back then. I'll embrace them as long as they're not rude. If they start getting rude, I'm not embracing any of them. They can go. Pillars and springs make so much sense. I showed whole body posture improvements photos to my vet and she said, good changes overall, but don't take the heels too late. But taking the heels on the front is what makes the improvements. Yeah. They just are so very, like I just said to you, it takes a good, serious amount of time to really understand trimming and balance. It's not something you can pick up like that. You'd start to pick it up, but then a little bit later on, you realize there are little nuances that you start to see in the foot that our students invariably start to see it after the third module, after 6 months. They start seeing these little nuances as their trim improves. And then they slow down again to get all those little nuances correct. And then they'll speed up again. Normally it's as fast as I can go. And then they go, oh God. And then they slow down and then they start speeding up again. And we have all that experience. And vets don't do any of that. And yet they want to tell you that the heels need to be kept higher or the toe needs to come off. And yet if you picked a horse's foot up and said, tell me if that's balanced, do it. Do it. Next time your vet comes, get them to pick the foot up and say, what's the balance like? In fact, don't pick the foot up. Just say, do you think my horse's foot is balanced? And see what they do. And if they don't pick that horse's foot up and look at the dorsopalmar balance and the mediolateral, go run screaming for the hills. Because that, and then that person then turns around to you and says, we had it, the lovely Grace we met at Beck's Nairn's clinic in Ireland. She introduced herself as a lameness expert. A vet, lovely girl, and she didn't have a clue about balance. She thinks she knew it, and when I asked her about various questions, she said, well, I've got a good farrier. I said, how do you know he's good? She went, what? I said, how do you know he's good? They don't all do the same thing, they all do different things. So how do you know he's good? Well, I trust him. Okay. So we got a hoof out, put it in front of her and said, get on then, off you go. And she just couldn't do it. She was using the knife like this, like a hoof pick, and she couldn't do it. She didn't understand. And now can you see the balance? And she didn't know where to look. First of all, she didn't know what she was doing. And this is somebody who proclaimed to the group that she was a lameness expert. You see, oftentimes when you have body workers who will often say the horse is out of balance, piffle, it might be, but do you really know? Because they're looking at it from the top. Pick it up and tell me what I've got to do with the horse's foot then. You have people picking up horse's foot and trimming and not being in balance. All the time it happens. And we're always, with our students, constantly over and over again, they're sending us photographs and we're looking at them and we're spotting, but trying to spot balance issues as they learn. It's a massive problem out there, people. Oh, Jane's here. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jane.
I watched her pick a previously founded foot up that was packed with dirt and she didn't clean it to look at it, just put it back down. I don't know what the point of that was. No. Neither do I. Thanks, Lindsay. I'll try that. Be patient and smile. Always smile. Right, we better come to an end. Thank you for your detailed response. I've been following you for a while and trimming my 2 horses. Thanks heaps. It takes guesswork out of it. You can't be guessing. You can't be guessing. If they have difficulty giving the fronts, is it helpful to trim and balance the hinds first? Yes. We do that. That's what we do. Go in for the hinds first. But you've got to work out whether they're being difficult to pick up their fronts because they genuinely have a problem or because they're just going, no. Or because what you're doing and the position you're getting them in isn't comfortable, so they go, no. Many times we've been out with students. Gary got this from me when he was training. He'd be dragged around a yard with a horse and the horse wouldn't stand for him, and I'd go straight up, pick the foot up and slide straight in, and the horse would be standing there like an absolute dream, and he'd go, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you doing that? It's about your body position as well. So sometimes if they don't want to hold up, that's one of the reasons why. My new vet said, well, that long toe makes sense support and more area to bear weight. Boom, new vet. Wow.
That's awesome.
Maybe they're watching the YouTube video. That's a good tip. Balance is a problem for me. Afraid to take anything away in front of the frog. If your heels are down, if the heels are down where they need to be, you've not taken the heels down too far. And let's face it, 90% of you, 99% of you wouldn't do that. The heels are where they need to be. That toe, if it's like that above, like that, poking up above the hard sole plane, poking up above that heel plane, needs to calm down. Otherwise, when that horse's foot goes down, it goes back because there's too much going on here. Hello, Lancelot.
That was Auntie Lindsay. She's been looking after you while I've been holidaying.
You little beggar. I had a shock of my life when I came in my office the other day and he sat on my seat.
You're not supposed to be over the road.
Hello, Kim from Revelstoke, BC. I finally made a bit of a live. Been following for years. I know your name. Hi, Kim. It's lovely to see you. Right, well, we're coming to the end now. Understood. All right, my lovelies. Thank you very much for joining us. We've done an hour and 20 today. I don't know what we talked about. Anything and everything. Be strong. Stay there. Stay as a Phoenix warrior. Be strong. And don't forget to follow the process and have faith in Mother Nature because she won't get it wrong.
Stick up for yourself.
Stick up for yourself. Bye-bye, and your horse. Bye.
Take care now.